know a lot of people out there are excited about Florida largemouth bass, big bass.
Big bass get people excited.
Yeah, so this is what this facility is going to do. It's going to create that for a lot of lakes across the state. So it's exciting.
The award-winning Tennessee WildCast is on the air with the latest on hunting, fishing, boating, wildlife watching, and all things outdoors. Make welcome your host, drummer and outdoor expert novice, Jason Harmon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tennessee WildCast. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Got a fun show for you today. We are at the Florida Largemouth Bass facility at Humboldt Hatchery, and this is going to be a great show. And I'm happy to have Miss Amy Spencer with me, Snyder Spencer, helping me co-host.
However,
I always give her two last names, but I appreciate her being here helping co-host with us today. And then we have Mr. David, Roddy, and Tom Pratt with us to talk about this facility. And it's going to be a fun show.
it is. It's a neat facility.
It is. It's one of a kind.
Yes, it is.
So I think it's going to be fun, and I'm excited to learn about this place and about what they're doing here. So I know a lot of people out there are excited about Florida largemouth bass, big bass.
Big bass get people excited.
Yeah, so this is what this facility is going to do. It's going to create that for a lot of lakes across the state. So it's exciting. So we're going to jump into it. First, I want to introduce everybody. I want let you introduce yourself. So let's start with Tom here, since he's next to Amy. Tom, tell us about yourself. Tell us what you do for the agency, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started here as a technician back in 2007, and promoted to a manager position in 2010, and I've been a manager here at Humboldt Fish Hatchery ever since. So
leading the way here, huh?
Yeah. So it's a great job. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah. Well, you went to school for this,
right?
You wanted to be in fisheries, so I mean, you got to love what you're doing.
Yeah, I've wanted to be in fisheries ever since I was 5 or 6 years old. It's something that I've always loved to do, and
yeah,
I've just really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, David, tell us about yourself. What do you do for the agency? You've been with us a little while, and you've worked at a few hatcheries, and now you're out in the Nashville office, I guess now.
That's right. I'm the statewide hatchery coordinator. I oversee 11 of our hatcheries, cold water and warm water. So it's constant between the hatcheries. The cold water goes throughout the year, and then warm water starts up in March, especially with this facility. So I help the hatchery managers any way possible, and I also oversee the hatchery expansion and improvement as well. But I'm here to support those guys. My job is to make sure they succeed in any way I can.
Well, I know you started out working at some hatcheries and had those hands-on jobs, and now you're still hands-on helping these guys and getting them what they need, like you said.
Yeah, I started as a technician in the reservoir, and then got promoted to the Springfield Hatchery.
Springfield, yeah, that's right.
I was up there about 23 years, and then all that experience, I'm able to help these new guys coming in. We're getting new hatchery managers coming in, so I'm able to support them as they learn the system, because each hatchery is different, just like a child. The personalities are all different.
Yeah. Well, you think of the agency, you think of law enforcement, you think game wardens, but there's so many other opportunities within the agency, so many jobs out there with wildlife, fisheries, communications.
We were talking about IT problems earlier. I mean, it's not just game wardens, even though that's what most people think. It's fisheries, it's wildlife, it's IT, it's license sales.
Yeah, it's all kinds of
everything.
Stuff. Communications, what we're doing here, getting the word out and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. The agency's an awesome place to work. But
so
let's jump in.
I was supposed to give us a little background history on this facility. I know a lot of people don't understand or know about this facility at all. So I mean, as an officer, I didn't even know we had it, and I was a couple counties over and didn't even, it was here for years before I even knew about it. So explain why we have this facility.
Well, the Florida Bass stocking program goes back to 2000. 2000 to 2014, we were stocking Chickamauga Reservoir, and we only needed 300,000 fry. We needed about 175,000 fingerlings, so we were getting them from Florida and then mainly in Texas. And the funny thing is, early on, we were getting them shipped FedEx. and I remember FedEx pulling into the hatchery, and the fish boxes were standing up like this between the driver and they were
man.
2 days late, and I just kind of dumped them in the raceway because they were already dead. So we were able to get our pilot, Barbara Schaefer, to make that flight.
Yes.
And so that improved our success rate. But in 2000,
So you flew them from Texas and
She'd pick
Florida.
'em up, yep.
Texas to Humboldt, Springfield, Normandy. That was the 3 hatcheries back then. So in Chickamauga exploded, with the state record in 2015.
Mr. Gabe Keene.
Yep. And Fish Management decided to expand the project, and so we we went to Florida and Louisiana and Texas to get these fry, and we knew we couldn't do that because they were mainly surplus fry.
Okay.
They weren't really making them for us.
Wasn't the cream of the crop.
Well, it was, but they weren't making them for us.
Gotcha.
Dedicated. We just
got the excess.
The excess.
Yeah.
So we knew that we had to have this. So Tom and I went to Florida, looked at the Rich Loan facility and got ideas. And the problem here is we can't do it outside. We had to build an inside facility, and this is a recirculating facility. It's the only one in the nation in Florida bass spawning.
Wow.
And because of our spring temps, we've got to keep this water at 72 degrees for they spawn. And that's kind of what you hear in the background is the filters running. We got UV filters. And then maybe if they see behind you, we got the blue tanks that have this bioballs in there.
Okay.
That has bacteria. The Florida bass brood are real sensitive to ammonia. So this bacterial filtration consumes that ammonia, so it's non-toxic. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole, but we needed this place because we needed 1.3 million fry, and this is the only way we could do it. And we've got 30 females and 20 males in each raceway, and Tom can update you on what's happened this year in the last 2 weeks.
Well, a few years ago, I came out and we did a Facebook story on this, and I think we were at 975 on fry, and you just informed me we were at 1.3 last year.
Right.
So every year we are seeing that increase in that fry.
Right, as the fish get older, they're going to be, putting down more eggs, and what's important for them is that they get enough forage throughout the year. So to produce those eggs. So, I feed them, I have 4 ponds, and I'll give them approximately 2,000 to 2,500 pounds of forage per year. And that amount of forage, it will increase as their size increases. So.
Now, you keep the males and females separate in those ponds, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when they're outside, they're separated, and they're eating. You said forage, but what people don't realize is you're actually feeding them goldfish.
Right. Goldfish, the biomass on them it's a good thick fish, so I think that they get the right amount of nutrients to gain weight, and that's what we want. We want to produce as many as we can. So
how long will a broodfish last? How long can you use one to spawn and do this work?
This is the first broodfish that we've ever dealt with. So I know down in Florida,
stages.
Right? So down in Florida, they use them for 10, 11 years or so.
Okay. Wow.
And then so this year, I'm probably going to be setting some potential broodfish back. So I'll put 100 off in a pond, and I'll begin the feeding process, and in 2 to 3 years they'll be ready to start spawning in the facility. So.
And our broodfish is from Texas, Louisiana, and Florida, so we've got a good genetic background.
Okay.
And when we were setting this up, we took fin clips off each brood, male and female, and sent them to Auburn, and they do a genetic test, and we want 97% to 100% Florida bass, and that's what we've got. There was a couple that were below 90, and we just threw them back. And so we want pure Floridas in this program.
So once you have these fish, where are they going? Chickamauga is probably one of the places they're going, but where are we putting these fry once they're ready to be moved around the state?
The fry goes to, of course, Humboldt. They've got the most ponds. Normandy, Hiwassee, Springfield, and Eagle Bend, and then they grow them up.
Right. Okay.
And then those fingerlings go in Fort Loudon, Watts Bar, Chickamauga, Nickajack, Kentucky, and then we've got an HC Lake, Herb Parsons. And so we've been stocking those reservoirs in that lake since 2015. So last year, our reservoir crew started sampling to see how our stocking's done. And this will make a hatchery coordinator and a hatchery manager happy because they're picking them up last year. They picked up Florida bass, and they actually picked up the F1, which is the northern, our native northern largemouth with the cross with the Floridas is the F1, and that's what we want. That F1 will give you a trophy bass.
And a good example of that F1 we were just discussing, we posted last week on TVA, had shocked up a large bass, 12 pounds, and then we shared it to our Facebook page, and that is exactly what we're looking for. That's that F1 that we're trying to create, and we're putting out there for all of our sportsmen.
That F1 gives us trophy bass, and it also increases the bass length and weight. And Chickamauga, if you drive through Dayton, there's all the hotels are full of boats.
Yeah.
So the economic impact down there has been crazy.
Big bass equal money.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
we shoot for 40% Florida alleles in our bass population. So chick is there. So we just kind of supplement chick. If we have low production, chick doesn't get as much as the others.
Okay.
Because they're already at that 40%, and our geneticist in Auburn said that's perfect. So that's what we're shooting for over the years, probably 15 years. All these reservoirs will be up to 40, let's hope.
Yeah. Well, I know folks are probably stopping the show right now and rewinding. Tell them what lakes those fish are going in again.
Yeah, that's one of actually our popular questions when we did this on social media a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Where do they go?
It's mainly that Tennessee River. So
okay.
With chick there, we started on Fort Loudon, Watts Bar, Chickamauga, Nickajack. See, that's all in the chain. And then Kentucky, and then Herb Parsons in Memphis.
Well, they do better down that chain, don't you think? Is that what y'all are finding?
It is. There's, in theory, a line that comes out of Oklahoma and goes right through Tennessee and then kind of dips down. And
that magic line.
With climate change, it may be up in Canada now. With the last couple of years, it's been really crazy spring, but they find out that's the best growth rate. It's a stock in that line, and so to find out Fort Loudon is doing good, that's a good sign.
Yeah, yeah. So, there might be a time where we get some of these lakes in the northern parts of the state might get more of these fish, but right now you're staying in that lower.
We're maxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't put any more production ponds in our hatcheries.
Gotcha.
And
yeah.
If we do expand, we're going to have to expand this type spawning facility somewhere else.
Well, you've proved in a one-of-a-kind, the only kind of a hatchery this is, you've proved you can do it, so we could
and set a record last year with
recreate
fry.
this. Yeah.
We want to stock these Florida bass earlier than the native northern spawn. It'll get them ahead of the natural native on the shad spawns and any other forage coming on, so we kind of give them a heads up over the natives.
A little head start there.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's a challenge. I've bass fished the last couple of weeks, and you can tell when they're going to bed, when they're spawning, and they're not fishing the same way they were weeks ago. And the temperature drops and changes so much right now. I can see that's probably a huge challenge for you, Tom, right here in this place.
Right.
But since you have the climate controlled opportunities here, it makes it so much easier.
And
I can see how an open system would be hard.
Right, and I mean, even with this closed system, they can sense storm fronts.
Really?
Right, and which is pretty amazing to me. I mean, one day you might have 2 spawns, and then the next day you might get 4 spawns. Well, the day after that, you might end up with 18. And it's going along different storm fronts that may be coming through. So it's a pretty neat, process that that you wouldn't think that they would be able to sense that inside a building and being in a closed system.
Controlled environment. Now, explain to our listeners pretty much how this works. The schedule, when you bring it in, how it works in here, because we haven't really talked about the facility, but like your calendar year, when you start to bring them in, and what happens after y'all bring them in.
Well, it all starts in January. at the end of January, we'll bring koi into the raceways, and the fecal matter from the koi start up the biofilters. So we want that ammonia-eating bacteria to start up, and we'll leave them in here for about a month. And then at the end of February, we bring the bass in here. And at the time, the water temp will be around 62 degrees. We'll turn on the heaters, and every 3 to 4 days, we'll bring that temperature up slowly and until we hit 72 degrees. And by that time, it'll be towards the end of March. And they'll end up being ready to spawn as soon as we're ready to throw down mats, in which the mats are what they spawn on.
They look like grass mats.
Yeah, they
right.
look black grass mats.
Right,
yeah.
And as soon as we put them in the water, the males go up and find their mat.
Yeah, we can see two from pair right here.
And they'll end up, we'll have spawns the next day.
Wow.
So, and then from then on, and nobody gets a day off. We're here 7 days a week.
They must work for the state.
So we're here every day. I haven't had a day off in almost a month now. So
talk to David. He'll get you one.
Right.
No, David will everybody gets a day off when this is over with. But what y'all do next is you'll collect the mats.
Right.
And then explain how you take the mats and you treat them with the hydrogen peroxide and all that. So go from once y'all collect the mats over to these other tanks over here to the on the side.
Right. All these mats are checked daily, and if we see a mat with eggs, we'll put them in a trough. We'll hang them there, and the hydrogen peroxide, which treats fungus, to make sure none of the eggs get any type of fungus, because they'll rampant, through there. So,
if you ever,
and then they'll stay in that bath for about an hour, and then we'll kind of clear the trough. We'll let just water run through the trough and to get all the hydrogen peroxide out of the trough, and we'll end up they'll end up hatching in 2 days. And so it's a really quick process.
Amazes me how quick it is.
So what's the hatching process like? I mean, are you hands-on with that, or does it just happen on the mat?
It just happens right on the mat.
Okay.
Once the mat is hanging vertically in the water, and once they hatch, they just kind of fall down to the bottom. They'll hang out on the bottom of the trough for about 5 days, and then they'll begin the swim-up process.
Cool.
And then they're just swimming all along the water column. So
awesome. And at that point, I guess they come out of here and go to the ponds. Is that right?
Right. After once they start free swimming in the trough, we'll collect them up, and we'll stock. I'll stock between 75 to 100,000 per acre of water that I have, and so and we'll keep them in there between 35 and 45 days, and then they go
across
the Kentucky Lake.
Yeah. So you mentioned it earlier before we started the show that you were going to load some up today and take some of them to the other hatcheries, right?
Right.
So this is the place. This is the place that provides that for the whole state.
Everybody comes here. One other thing that we've got some technology in here. We adjust the lights. These are dimmable lights, so we try to do a photo period similar to what's outside.
Okay.
It's got to set the mood a little bit.
So when he exactly
slow music.
Slow music. So when he brings a brood in, they start adjusting. Right now we're kind of like sunlight.
We're bright. Yeah.
So at about 4 o'clock, they will dim these lights, and they're on timers. So we try to do a 14-hour period now.
Yes.
So when he brings them in, they're set at 12, and then they slowly bring that up. And they slowly bring the heat up, so we're adjusting to their.
The heat is
You're
on.
You're setting the mood for a while.
Right. We do need some music in it.
Right.
I wonder how that would affect the fish.
If we're struggling, we may try some berry white.
And I wondered about being in here. I mean, I know you working here every day, but people being in here, does that affect the fish? Does that affect how they spawn?
Normally I don't try to walk them down the raceways throughout the day. Like what we do is outside, or at the forefront of the.
Gotcha.
So we don't try to bother them at all. That way they don't jump off the mat, and just let them get their spawn
Yeah,
done.
because you can kind of see when you walk down through here,
Right.
they'll kind of come off. But you know that they've been there all morning on
that's
that
probably
one.
a pair right there. And
Yeah,
we don't
right.
want to spook them.
No,
Right.
they're gonna have some eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, temperature, light, bacteria. What's some other challenges that you see here and you have to face?
Well,
You know.
in years past, we have had like a moisture problem in here, but last year we stuck these a ventilation system in here to draw moisture out, because the humidity will get so high in here, and it's we'd have water dripping off the ceiling or whatever. But that's all. I believe we've got it all fixed. So.
Well, and if you look at this facility, there are a lot of working parts between pipes and water flows, and then like in this year, did our major freeze in February mess anything up? I know it got something else, but
Right. I mean, well, it didn't. Well, it affected. I believe one of our pipes on one of the UV filters. I don't know. I think as cold as it got, it kind of cracked one of the pipes, so
Gotcha.
we had to replace it. So
Early on, when we started this, our brood was smaller, and it looked like the males had ran out of their juice, and we got a lot of fungus eggs. And now, as they're older, they're spawning more efficiently. But those first couple of years, so we got to train them. So when we bring them in out of the ponds and they see the raceways and those mats,
Yeah,
they're
it's a whole new thing. Yeah,
they're trained really when they hit these raceways what they're going to do, and that's true for the other states as well. That was one thing they were telling us.
I'm sure you learned a lot from those guys. You know, they've been doing it a while.
and y'all have learned a lot here just in bass behavior and then trial and error too. So
Right.
over the years of meeting some challenges.
a lot of gray hair.
It's not. I'd say it's not an easy. It's not an easy process. I mean, you know, it's.
Oh, this staff
Good science.
is doing
Yeah.
a great job, because if they don't produce them, we can't go back to the other states
Yeah.
and say, oh, we need some fry, because they're usually, Louisiana is doing this in February. They're producing
Right.
because it's so warm down there. So we had a short window, and now if something happens, we can't get any more fry. So the staff has done a tremendous job in doing this. It's pretty neat to see what they've done over the few years and tweaking everything. So they've done a great job.
Yeah.
Do we see any addition to this years down the road? Do you think we'll increase this facility, or you think we're going to be able to produce the number that we need for our lakes?
We can do it with our brood now. We would just have to go further. And like I said earlier, we try to get the fry in the ponds by mid-April. And we could go further, because these things will spawn probably in another month. Didn't we? First couple of years.
Yeah, they could keep going, because these bass, they're not going to. They don't lay all their eggs in one basket, so they're multiple spawners. So the female, she'll lay a third of her eggs on this day. She may come back in 3 days from now and lay another third, and then maybe finish off. I mean, she can, spawn up to 3 times.
Wow.
So it's not like a catfish. Catfish, they put all their eggs in one basket, and if something happens to those eggs, they're not going. There's no more. So, but yeah, bass are multiple spawners. So,
Wow. Or I guess you could say they put a third of their eggs in one mat.
right.
And also, for some reason, they won't hit the mat. They'll hit the concrete.
Oh,
so
right.
that, we probably got more spawns than what we're actually pulling out.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, because sometimes you'll see fry swimming around in
And
the
ladies, you're
raceways.
familiar with this when you clean around the bathroom. We know how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, I had another question about these the goldfish. Do y'all raise those, or do y'all get those from somewhere? Do you raise your own food for these guys?
Yes. Well, in years past we started spawning goldfish, but we found it to be more successful if we purchase the goldfish fry from a vendor.
Gotcha.
And they'll send us a box that has about 150,000 fry, and then we'll divide that into a couple ponds, and they get fed. Once they get of size, they'll get fed fish feed every day, and that way we can get them bigger quicker.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, talk about your staff real quick. I know we haven't really touched on that. How many men do you have here working, and ladies here working with you, and make this happen?
There's we have 5 technicians, I think. We got Kenneth.
That's
I'm
awesome.
trying to think. Kenneth.
It's 5 total employees.
Right.
Yeah.
So 5.
4
5.
techs.
Right. They're here
Every day. They're in this period, yeah.
Right. We have one technician that lives here at the facility.
Okay.
So if there's something that comes up, I mean, he's out
ready
there.
to respond.
Right. Out there in the middle of the night. And there's, like when we're drawing down ponds, there's a guy here, if he's having an issue drawing down a pond, like he'll be out there 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, to make sure that pond is, down at 8 o'clock that next morning for us to harvest it. So, I mean, there's a lot that people don't realize that goes
behind the scenes
right,
of these things to make it successful.
Right.
A lot of equipment to keep up, a lot of all that stuff too, I'm sure. You know,
Yeah, so, I mean, there's, everybody's unique in their own way, so.
Yeah.
And remember, when you're buying those hunting and fishing license, you're help paying for this.
Right.
You're help putting it back into our waterways, and people just really don't realize what we really do behind the scenes.
This is all fishery money right here.
Yeah. A lot of hard work, a lot of good experience, a lot of good
And a lot of good employees, because you can't. Yeah,
they're
you
extremely hard workers.
You can't have somebody let you down.
Yes, they're very reliable.
And it's amazing what some of our folks can do. You know, you may be trained in fisheries, but they're great welders, they're great plumbers, they're great.
Important.
You
They're
know,
jack of all trades. You're
Yes.
doing plumbing work, you're doing collecting
gotta
eggs,
be.
you're doing it all.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Tom and David, I appreciate you guys, being a part of this show, allowing us to come in here and shoot from the facility. Folks can see it. It's awesome.
And no, we don't let people in here for that reason, because
No
we
tourists.
don't want the fish to get disturbed, because
Yeah.
we don't want people walking up and down the raceway. So before you ask, can we come tour the facility? No, we really don't let tourists in here.
Right.
So.
It's a biosecurity as well.
Right. There are some hatcheries when COVID
Yes.
lifts, you can go visit and check those out, but not this one. But
Yes.
anyway, we're going to do another show on the property here soon, Davy Crockett Lake. So come by and check that out. You can fish out there. So we'll do a show about that. And guys, I appreciate you. Appreciate you letting us come in. And I know folks will appreciate this show. Appreciate this information.
Thank y'all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
No problem.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Stay connected with TWRA by visiting our website at tnwildlife.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hey, it's all about Tennessee wildlife. It's what we do. Tennessee WildCast will be on the air again next week. We'll see you then.